Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 545. Today we're going to take a look at Love Letter Premium Edition. So this is a brand new, kind of sort of big box kind of love letter, and this game actually supports up to 8 players. Now the original only supported 2 to 4 players, but now they've added in some new cards and they've really blinged out the components here, and they've added some different kinds of mechanics into some of the new roles, so you can play all the way up to 8 players. So let's take a look at it and then I'll tell you what I think. Okay, I kind of want to do just sort of a pseudo unboxing as well, because this is a premium edition. This is very much a blinged out version of Love Letter. So it's a very hard, sturdy box, and you can see it's using the original art from the original AEG edition. Of course, there was the Japanese edition before this, and it has a magnetic sort of flip-top lid there, which we're going to crack open. It's got a very nice rule book here, which explains the new cards and so on, and the rules in case you aren't familiar with it. And it's kind of got a nice sort of inset here with some of the pictures of the different characters, some of the new roles as well. You can see the bishop there. And then a nice sort of felt insert here. And then we have here a bag of these sort of supersized hearts, and you can see there's a special token, which I'll explain in a minute. And then these cards are sleeved. So it comes with a pack of sleeves, and these sleeves are awesome. You can see they're custom for Love Letter, and these cards are huge. They're very tall here. If you think of like the original Blue Moon, or maybe like Lost Cities, the 2-player card game, if you're familiar with that, that's about the size that they are. And of course they have these custom sleeves here. Now the other thing to note here is these aren't really cards. This is a very thick card stock there. So you wouldn't want to play these without the sleeves at all, because you wouldn't be able to shuffle them at all. So these are very nice, and you can see this is one of the new roles, his Sycophant, and I'll explain some of the new abilities and things. So it does come with some player aids as well. You can see you've got the original cards here and then the new cards here. Now these are double-sided, which is sort of funky. Now there is enough sleeves to sleeve these, so I just turned 4 of them up on the new cards and 4 of them up on the old cards. But once you play, you know, a couple times, then you'll have memorized the cards anyway. But they're a nice little reference there if you're trying to sort of card count towards the end of the game. So these are sleeved as well, so that's also nice. So the way that the game works is if you're playing 2 to 4 players, you just play the same old Love Letter. You don't play with any of the new cards or the new abilities. You just do the same, and then you play to the same amount, whatever the original was. You know, with the 2-player, I think you play to 7 hearts, and 4-player, you play to 4. Now, if you play with 5 to 8 players, you're always going to play until whoever the winner has 4 hearts. Now, it could actually be a tie in this case, because sort of like the Batman edition, which, sort of spoiler alert, my favorite edition of Love Letter was the Batman edition, until this one. The Batman edition is really cool. But it is possible to end up in a tie at the end of the game of this. And so that's actually my only real, it's not even a complaint, it's just a confusion, is, okay, so it says if you play in a tie, then everybody that was tied plays another game, which would probably usually be like 2, maybe 3 people in an 8-player game. But do they use just the old cards because they're not playing a full 5-player game? So our little house rule, and this hasn't actually happened yet, but if it comes to a tie and we're playing the 5 to 8-player version, we're just going to let everybody keep playing until there's a clear winner. So anyway, that's my only little weirdness with the rules. I'm sure somebody will clarify that. So let me go ahead and sort out some of the new cards. You can see the old cards still have the old art. That's a little bit more of like an extended art edition type thing. But let me sort these out, and then we'll kind of go through the different abilities. Okay, so here we have the Assassin. You can see this is actually a card with a value of 0. So if you hold it till the end of the game, it's only going to be worth 0. But I love this card. So the ability is, if you have this card in your hand, when another player chooses you as part of the guard's effect, they are knocked out of the round and you are not. Discard this card and draw a new card. So this is awesome because somebody calls you and you're like, boom, you're dead. So you can see this little marker here that shows you how many are in the deck. That means there's only 1 of them in this case. So this is a really fun card. It makes calling the guard, you know, have some consequences, because you could very well get eliminated if you call in the wrong person. Now here is another guard, and this is the same as the original guard, but one thing to note here. So it says name a number other than 1. So a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of them are now going to kind of be reworded to say name a number other than 1. So here's the original guard here. So you can see it's the exact same, but now you're calling 1. So if I call, instead of like Prince, I'm going to call 5. So even if you have, not the prince, I thought you had the prince, but you had the 5, you just say, okay, you have a 5, and then they're eliminated. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And it goes a long ways to actually making it somewhat deducible, with a larger deck and more players, because if you had to be very specific, then the deduction wouldn't be as quite as attainable. And I'll explain that more of that in the review. So here we have the Cardinal here, and this is choose 2 players. They must trade hands, and then you get to look at one of their hands. So you can say, Billy and Bobby, you guys trade hands, and then I get to look at one of the cards, which is really cool. Now this one is the Baroness, who is maybe the wife of the Baron, I'm not sure. And it says, choose 1 or 2 other players, look at their hands. So you get to look at other people's cards. And then you also have the Sycophant, which is sort of the counterpart to the Handmaid, which is funny to me for some reason. But choose any player. If the next card played has an effect that requires 1 or more players to be chosen, they must be one of them. So I can say, okay, Francesca's about to play, but I can say, you know what? Billy, you're the target. So if Francesca plays a card that targets something or somebody, then they have to target Billy. So that's kind of an interesting thing as well. And then here we start to get more interesting here. We have the Count. It says, if this card is in your discard pile at the end of the round, add 1 to the number of the cards in your hand. So again, at the end of the round, if you have like the Prince, and then this guy was in your discard pile, instead of it counting as 5, then it would be a 6. And it is possible, you can see there's actually 2 of these. It is possible to get both of them, and so that will actually add +2. So that's kind of interesting, because you might be able to beat the princess with a countess or something like that. So that's a cool twist. And here we have the Constable here, number 6. It says, if this card is in your discard pile when you are knocked out of the round, you gain an affection token. Now this is my second favorite card in the deck, and I'm saving my favorite one for last. So you put this in your discard pile, and you're sort of like daring people to try to knock you out, because if they do, you still get a token. And that's really crazy, because we actually had this happen today, where I was on the verge of winning to getting my 4th heart. And so nobody could take me out, even though I was in the lead, because if this card would give it to me, and you immediately win in that case, if that gives you that heart there. It's interesting. So they were all trying to force now to play the long game to retain a high value card. So it shifted the dynamics of the game a lot. So it was really, really cool. Now we have the Dowager Queen here, and she says, choose another player. You secretly compare hands with them, the player with the higher numbers out of the round. So it's like the reverse Baron. Also very, very cool dynamics there. Now, this is not part of the new cards, but I just wanted to show the princess because there's no 8. So there's no number 8, but there's counterparts for all the other cards. However, there's now the Bishop, which is the number 9. The Bishop's also very interesting. It says, name a number other than 1, so similar to the guard, and choose another player. If they have that number in their hand, then you gain an affection token. So if you name it, this is similar to the Batman card in the Batman love letter. So if I name, Prince, and you have the Prince, then I get an affection token. However, you're not out. They may discard their hand and draw a new card, but the princess beats the bishop at the end of the round. And so that's very interesting. It's not clear in the rules to me, but how we played it was, even if you got additions to this, like you made this a 9 or a 10, the princess will always still beat it, but this will still beat the others. So that's just like a hard rule. Princess always beats bishop no matter what the end value is. It's not super clear in the rules, but I think that makes sense. So the last card, this is my favorite one. This is a brilliant card. So here's the Jester. It says, choose another player, give them a Jester token. That's what this yellow heart is. And so if they win this round, you gain an affection token. So if I give this to Billy, and Billy wins, Billy, of course, will get a token, but I will also get one. And so this is a fantastic dynamic. This really brings the game home to me. This card, as well as the Constable, and some of the other cards are good too, but these really just bring the game to the next level, because this creates a sort of a temporary alliance, if you will, because now I've given you this. I don't want you to go out, so I'm not going to call guard on you after I just gave you the Jester token. And so maybe you work together with me. You don't really care as much as I care about you winning. So it adds a real interesting twist to the game. So let's jump into the review part. Okay, so that is Love Letter Premium Edition, and this is another game today that I'm reviewing that I'm kind of surprised how much I liked it. So this box showed up at my house, and I was like, another version of Love Letter? I don't need this. You know, I've played 4 or 5, I guess, different versions of Love Letter, and like I said during the walkthrough, previously to playing this game, my favorite was the Batman one, and that's because the whole Batman and Robin dynamic. I'm not going to go into that, but I recommend that one a lot. It's really fun the way that one makes a twist on Love Letter. This one, though, is now my favorite, but only when you play, of course, with 5 or more players. If you play it with 2 to 4, it's the same game, so big deal. So, you know, it's nicer components and stuff. It's a cool game. But when you ratchet it up to that 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th player, then it becomes really, really fun. And it's nice because I like Love Letter. We play it a lot at work when we can't figure out what to play. Maybe I don't have any new games to show or anything. And, you know, we're just like, I don't know. I don't feel like playing that game or something, you know. And so we're like, I'll play Love Letter. And then you can kind of sort of talk while you're playing the game. You know, the environment becomes more of the game, and the game is just kind of facilitating smack talk and, you know, kind of playing poker face or messing with people or bringing in random conversations about, you know, the outside world and working that into your sort of deduction of with somebody's poker face. So that's really cool. So that's fine. But this has, like I mentioned in the walkthrough, that kind of temporary alliance part, and I'm like, oh yes, I love this, because if you're watching my reviews, I get excited when you have like shifting teams and dynamics, like if, you know, from games like Dune all the way down to like Frank's Zoo and stuff. So anything like where you can shift the dynamics of the team, and you're like, okay, you know, we're kind of working together now for a little while, and then it's going to shift next round maybe, and just some of the twists, and it kind of turns Love Letter on its ear a little bit, and really kind of spices it up. Now, unfortunately, you can't really use any of those awesome cards if you play with less than 5. Like, you couldn't really play a 3-player game of Love Letter with the Jester or the Constable and stuff. It's not going to work. But I think that's fine. You know, you can play Love Letter, or then you can play like Love Letter, the party game, and play with 8 people. Now, I haven't played it with 8, but I'm pretty sure as long as all 8 people at the table had a good attitude, which is rough because it's 8 people. 8's a lot to get everybody on board with something. But I think it's going to work. If you get 8 fans of Love Letter on the table, they're going to like it. Now, the cool thing is, the cards are really big, so that's a bonus because you can see them across the table a lot easier than if they were the normal size cards. So if you have 8 people sitting around a big table, you can see the cards nicely. And again, with the deduction, which I mentioned again in the walkthrough, because instead of calling like Prince or Constable or whatever, you have to just call the number. The clues that the other cards give you in terms of like the Baron or the Baroness and those kind of cards gives you a sense of the value of the card still. It doesn't give you, you know, the identity of the card, but that's not what you have to guess now. So they did a really good job, I think, with that. Just that, I know it's very simple, but it's very nice little twist. Like, oh, well, I know based on what's happening and kind of where the cards have been kind of being passed around, you know, he's probably like a 3 or a 4. And you can look at the table and say, oh, this has been in this, so I'm going to call 3 or 4. But you got to be careful, again, because the assassin can backfire. So that really makes you second guess, you know, just randomly one-offing a guard. And sometimes you just got to get caught, and it's just kind of funny. Now, you can get assassin at the beginning of the game, and this happened to my friend. 2 games in a row, he got assassin like real early, and he had to sit out the rest of the game. And so that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, it's a rare thing, and it's kind of funny. But the rounds are over quick enough. It didn't really bother me. It kind of bothered him, so I'm bringing it up. But I was like, yeah, it wouldn't bother me, buddy. It was only like 4 minutes, and then we were back into the next round. So it's really cool. I really recommend this, especially if you're a fan of Love Letter. And if you're a fan of like some of these larger party games like Resistance or Werewolf or something, this is kind of a cool thing because it takes it to that next level where you have a bigger group of players. You can play it. It's simple enough that you can get in that kind of extracurricular trash talk and all that kind of cool stuff. And the production quality is really, really nice as well. So I'm really glad that they did this. You know, like I said at the beginning of the review part, I was like, what? You know, okay, premium edition, let's milk this cow again. You know, because there's like 40 different licensed versions of Love Letter. But this is really good. This is my favorite version. I haven't played every single version of Love Letter. Let's see. The original, and then there was that kind of the original Japanese one, which is the awful 7 card, and then the Hobbit one was good, and then there's the Batman one, and then there was another one I played, which it might have just been the L5R one, I think. That's not doesn't have any different rules or anything, so it might have just been those. The rest of them all have the same rules, except there's one I think that I haven't played that has a tweak on the rules. The Hobbit and the Batman one each have a tweak on the rules. I think it's the Adventure Time one. I think there's a wrinkle there, but I'm not sure. But this has several wrinkles. So again, I would highly recommend this game. They did a great job. Thanks.